Almuerzo. What does the word almuerzo mean? Yeah. ¿Qué almuerzo tienes los días verdes?
I forgot how to say when I have lunch.
Which lunch do you have? Okay. So you have two ways of setting up your sentence. You can either say, I have second lunch on green days, or you can say, my lunch is second on green days. They are equally correct. Excelente. Mi almuerzo es segundo los días verdes. Muy bien. Let's see. Sarah Lynch. ¿Qué almuerzo tienes los días verdes? You learned it when you learned how to tell time. You said 1/4 That was the same word. It sounds like the number 4. What's the number 4? Okay. But instead of being C-U-A-T-R-O, we're going to say C-U-A-R-T-O. Flip those consonants. Okay, so, ¿qué almuerzo tienes los días verdes? Excelente, mi almuerzo es cuarto los días verdes. ¿Qué almuerzo tienes los días verdes? Sí. Well, los días verdes was my question.
Los días verdes.
You also have first lunch on green days?
No, I have on green days.
Oh, okay. But you do have first lunch on green days. Okay, bien. Dylan, ¿qué almuerzo tienes los días verdes? Correct. Sí. Almuerzo. All right. On green days, Dylan, what lunch do you have? Okay. What you said was, I have first lunch on 4th. So you're mixing things up. Instead of saying, I have first lunch, change first to 4th. So I'm going to get rid of first here. Put 4th in there instead. Excelente. Tengo el cuarto almuerzo. 4th lunch. El cuarto almuerzo. Anybody have 5th lunch on green days? Do you remember the word for 5th? Eli? What is it when 5 babies are born at once? What are those called? Quintuplets. It's related to that word. Quintuplets. Does that help you?
No.
Oh, come on. Pull up your vocab list. It's quinto.
Quinto, D.
All right. Perdóname. I'm having voice issues today. All right, so Eli, ¿qué almuerzo tienes los días verdes?
Almuerzo. No. Tengo quinto almuerzo los días blancos.
No, los dos blancos, tú tienes el primero. You have first lunch on white days.
I said green.
Los días, it's right here. Los días verdes, green days.
Me, almuerzo, quinto, los días verdes.
Excelente, muy bien. Anyone have 6th lunch at any time? Good for you, because that has to be horrible. I would be starving by then. So if you did have 6th lunch, what is the word for 6th?
Siete.
That's 7.
O seis. Sexto.
Sexto. Sí,
Sexto.
Sexto is 6th. Okay, bien. So I don't have 6th lunch, period. ¿Tienes un sexto almuerzo? Joaquin?
Mi no sexto.
Me no, come on, not me no. How do you say I?
Yo tengo.
All right, so how do you say I don't have?
No tengo.
That's it. Me means mine. Go ahead.
No tengo.
Yeah.
Mi almuerzo. Sexto almuerzo.
All right, you don't need a my in there. I don't have sixth lunch. Go ahead, try again. You're almost there, Joaquin.
No tengo sexto almuerzo.
Excelente. No tengo sexto almuerzo. Muy bien. All right, chicos, we're gonna I'm gonna stop here with this because I want to go back and get a short agenda today and get a good start on
What?
get a good start on the lesson you're about to have. I need to. So important for today's lesson is that you really know your subject pronouns. What is a subject pronoun? TJ, can you explain what a subject pronoun is?
No. I think.
Can you give me an example of a subject pronoun? Am?
Yeah. Right.
Spell it?
A-M.
No, that am isn't a subject, that's a verb. All right, let me back up. What's the job of a pronoun? What does a pronoun do? Look,
It's easier to identify someone without saying their name.
yes, good, okay. It makes it easier to identify. So instead of saying Luke, what word would I use instead, BJ? He, okay? I would say he instead of Luke. Okay, what would I say instead of saying Jenna? What would I say instead? She. So pronouns take the place of nouns or someone's name. Okay? Suppose instead of saying, what would you say instead of my brothers and I? Justin, instead of saying my brothers and I, what would you say? You're getting ahead of me. I wasn't even asking in Spanish, but yes, you have it right. Nosotros. Yep. I was asking in English. What would you say for my brothers and I? We. It's the same as saying we. What would be the same as saying her sisters? Her sisters are such nice ladies, or girls, whatever. Sarah, what would be the same as her sisters? In English, yeah. Okay, but get rid of the rule. They, good. Her sisters are the same as saying they. Her sisters are nice girls, they are nice girls. Same thing, okay? So, I'll ask again. What are our subject pronouns in English? What are they? You just named a few for me. I named most of them. Kelsey, give me a subject pronoun in English. What are they? If you're talking about yourself, instead of saying Kelsey, what would you say? I. Here's the first one. I. Give me another one, Kelsey. We is another one. Good. Keep going. It is another one. He. She. One that Sarah just did. Okay, if somebody were to say her sisters, that's the same as saying they. Good. There's one missing, guys. Suppose you're talking directly to someone. Say again. You. Okay, like I could use Dan's name if I'm talking to him, but I'm not going to keep saying Dan over and over again. I'm going to at some point switch to you so that I'm not being so repetitious. Okay? All right, so those are our subject pronouns in English. Now let's do it in Spanish. ¿Cómo se dice I en español? Friend. Yo, muy bien. ¿Cómo se dice you en español? Bring the kids at home into this conversation. Read, ¿cómo se dice you en español? Hold on, read there. I have to out in the hallway. Shutting up the store. Hold on 1 second. Wait till this happens. All right, it's better now. Go ahead. Tú, muy bien, tú. Now, the thing with you is we've got lots of yous in Spanish. Who are you talking to if you use tú? Friends, friends, family, good. And are you talking to one or more than one person? Correct, muy bien. What is the formal version of cool? Aubrey, what's the formal version of cool? Aubrey, ¿estás ahí? Aubrey?
Sorry, what's the question?
What is the formal version of cool?
I can't remember it right now.
So if I were to say, Aubrey, ¿cómo estás? And you'd say, muy bien, gracias. Y usted, yes, usted. ¿Cómo se dice he en español? He. Victoria, ¿estás ahí? Todavía no está. Jay, ¿cómo se dice he en español? Muy bien. Eva, ¿cómo se dice she en español? Good. ¿Cómo se dice we en español? We. Now this is a new one. Joaquin, do you remember?
I think it's nosotros.
Bravo, muy bien. Nosotros is the word for we. Suppose the we is just girls.
Nosotras.
Excelente, Joaquin. Muy bien. What would be the you that you would use with your friends? You're being familiar, and you're talking to more than one person. Dan? That's the formal one, but there's more to the story. DJ? Vosotros or vosotras for female. Now, all right, so guys, really open your ears because this gets sticky here. Okay? The vosotros and vosotras, plural you, is only still used in Spain. Latin Americans don't use it. So they use ustedes whenever they're being plural, whenever they're talking to more than one person. And it doesn't matter if it's familiar or formal. However, I want you to learn the vosotros form because, like myself, you might find yourself in Spain one day, and I would feel remiss if I didn't teach this to you. So for the purposes of our class, now Ben, you've had this before, so you really need to let this sink in. For the purposes of our class, vosotros and vosotras is familiar the way it is in Spain, and ustedes is formal the way it is in Spain and everywhere else. Okay, so ustedes consider formal, and vosotros consider familiar. Okay? All right. Even though if you go to Mexico or Colombia or Puerto Rico, they'll use vosotros. Okay? But I want you to learn because I think it's important for you to learn. Okay. All right. So chicos, ¿cómo se dice de en español? ¿Cómo se dice de? Gabriela, ¿cómo se dice de en español? It's really just the plural of he and she. What's the word for she? Ella, ella. So make it plural. Say it again. I can't hear you. Ellos would be they for boys, but what would it be for girls? Ellas. Okay, so ellos for boys or boys and girls mixed, and ellas for girls. There's your they. Ellos and ellas. All right, let's take it from the top. Everybody repitan, por favor. Yo.
Yo.
Tú.
Tú.
Usted.
Usted.
Él. Ella. Nosotros. Nosotras. Vosotros. Vosotras. Ustedes. Ellos. Ellas. Good. If you're a little foggy on those, what we're about to do, hopefully, will cement that knowledge in your head. Because we're actually going to build on that knowledge. Alrighty, so hey, did Mason disappear? Oh my goodness. Somebody texted me and tell him to get back online. He's missing the most important lesson of the year. Alrighty, so with what I've got for you here, I've got it in the slide deck. Okay, and it has to do, what I'm going to teach you today is how to take a verb and change it to say who is doing the action. Wait a minute, where's my presenter? There we go. But you first have to understand, you first have to have a good sense of what's a verb. What is a verb? Grace, what's a verb? By the way, your English grammar, okay, the stuff you learned like back in elementary school, it's gonna strengthen because of this class. Okay, you're gonna, like this. I'm sure when you were in 2nd and 3rd grade, you passed a quiz once about what a verb is, right? Well, guess what? It's back. Grace, what's a verb?
A word.
Wanna phone a friend?
Yeah.
Phone a friend.
BJ's dying to help you. Go ahead, BJ.
Action.
It shows an action. Can you give me an example, PJ? What action is that?
Snap.
Snapping. The verb to snap is a verb. Okay, give me another verb, Grace.
Running.
Okay, the verb to run is a verb. Beautiful. All right, so run, walk, eat, laugh, sit, hear, touch. Okay, those are all actions. But there's a little more to the story. A verb is not just an action that you can see someone doing. It's also a state of being. So words like be, am, is. Can you see someone ising? Okay, no, but you use is all the time, right? Like she is a nice person, is. That's a verb too. They're called states of being. Like so words like be, am, is, are, have, has, can, should. Mason. Mason, where did you go?
You gotta go with that.
All right, well, I'm glad you're back, Mason. All right, well, I'm glad you're back because we're having the most important lesson of the year. All right, so getting back to where was that here? Okay, so those could, should, they're verbs. You can't see somebody coulding, you can't see somebody shoulding, but they still are verbs because they're classified as a state of being. Okay, but don't worry about that. Most of the verbs that we're going to do, especially the ones to start you off with, are going to be like clear actions, like dancing, singing, studying, something you can see somebody doing. All right, who can tell me what an infinitive is? Actually, I'll back up. Who can tell me what an infinitive is? Besides Ben. All right, this word infinitive, I know it's new for you in terms of language. You probably use it in infinite in math, right? The word infinite, number that goes on and on and on. But in terms of language, it has a different meaning. Dan, what's an infinitive? Do you know?
It's a word, it's a verb that says to,
Okay, good. So give me an example.
like to teach,
Good.
to
So
spell.
to teach, to answer, to talk, to run. Okay, I'm not saying teaching, talking, running. That's a different form of the verb. I'm saying to teach, to talk, to run. Our infinitives in English all begin with that same little word. Not all of them, 99.9. Begin with that same little word, to. Now, if I were to say to giggle, does that tell you who's doing the giggling? It does not. It just tells you to giggle. Does it tell you if the giggling is past, present, or future? To giggle. It does not. So an infinitive just gives you meaning. Nothing else, just meaning. But the infinitive is our starting point. I'm going to teach you today how to take that infinitive, and by the way, you know a lot of them already, take that in Spanish, and then change it to say that somebody's doing something. So instead of saying to speak, you'll be able to say they speak, or I speak, or he speaks. That's what this lesson today is all about. Okay? So an infinitive is, just to recap, it's the main form of the verb. It's the one found in a dictionary. And it begins with the word to in English, like to see, to laugh, to run. Okay? It doesn't tell you who's performing the action, and it doesn't tell you the time frame of the action. All right. To make those changes from the infinitive, like to do something, to say that somebody else is doing something, that's called conjugating a verb. Okay, it's conjugating, it's a new word to you, I know. But conjugating means changing a verb to say who's doing it and when the time frame is. Good news, guys. The only time frame you have to worry about in Spanish 1 is present tense. You won't do past tense until next year. Okay? So everything we do this year will be in the present tense. Now, once you get your head wrapped around that, then you'll learn more tenses next year. Alrighty? So, just want to make sure I didn't miss anything here and forget to tell you something. Alrighty. So as I mentioned, we're going to be changing the verb. Well, the verb changes based on who the subject is. The subject is the person that's doing the action. So in this sentence right here, Marco speaks Spanish. Who is the subject? Marco.
And Marco.
Why? Because he's the one doing the action. What's the action? Speaking. Okay, let me give you a different one that might not be as obvious. Let's see. I gave Ben an apple. Who is the subject? What's the action?
Oh,
Giving.
Giving. Who's doing the giving?
You.
So what's the subject in my sentence?
You.
I gave Ben an apple. Who's the subject? I am the subject. The word I is the subject. Okay, you're catching on. Let me do another one. Let's see. My parents want my sister to get her license. My parents want my sister to get her license. Okay, all righty. We actually have, that's a very foggy one. So what is the main action of this? What is the main action of that sentence?
Wanting.
Wanting, good. Who's doing the wanting?
The parent.
The parents. Now, an argument could be made, the sister to get, okay? But the main verb is the wanting, and the person doing the people doing the wanting are the parents, okay? So your subject is the person doing the action. All right, which is why it's so important that you know your subject pronouns and how to substitute them out. All right, so consider the following. Look at this now. Okay, everybody look at my screen or your screen if you're doing it at the same page. In Spanish, I speak as yo hablo, but he speaks as él habla. What changed? Obviously, yo changed to él, I changed to he. What else changed? Right?
Hablo changed to habla.
Yep, so what changed?
It became feminine.
Ah, I'm glad you said that. I have taught you guys that the letter A indicates feminine, haven't I?
Yeah.
Okay? That's for nouns and adjectives. Only for nouns and adjectives.
Yes.
We're now dealing with verbs. A has a different job with verbs. For verbs, it tells you that he, she, or usted even is doing the action. Alrighty, so the answer to my original question was what's the difference here is when I'm doing the action ends in O. When he's doing the action, it ends in A. Not because it's feminine, but because that's the he ending. Alrighty? Alright, so, yeah, that just says what I just said. Alright. So here are seven English pronouns. I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. Okay, now we've been working with pronouns, since last class. So here they are in Spanish. And by the way, I'm walking you through the slide deck so you know where to find this information when you do the practice that you're going to be doing later on in class. Okay, so here are your 12 subject pronouns in Spanish. Remember, they don't have it. It doesn't exist in Spanish. It's one from the language. Okay. All right, so here we have a sample conjugation of a Spanish verb. Okay, this is the verb hablar. Look at the endings and how they change based on who's doing the action. If we, for example, are doing an action, what's the ending? Dylan, what's the ending for we? In order to answer my question, you have to know the word for we in Spanish. That's why I spend time on those pronouns. So, ¿cómo se dice we en español? Nosotros. Nosotros, right here. Get the phone, am I not sharing?
No, I'm following along.
Oh, good answer. All right, I'm sorry about that. Let me make sure I share. Hold on. Here's my little puppy over here. We're get into the nitty gritty now. I don't want anybody to miss a thing. There we go. If I ever forget to share, please, please, please don't hesitate to let me know. All right. So Dylan, word for we is nosotros. Okay. If we are doing the speaking, what is the ending going to be? Up on my chart. All that's red is the ending. A-M-O-S. A-M-O-S. So here's how it works, guys. You take the verb, the infinitive, you knock off the AR, you knock off the last two letters, whatever the last two letters might be. It's not always going to be AR, but you knock off the AR, and then you tap on the ending that corresponds to the person. So for yo, the ending is O. For tú, the ending is AS. For usted, él, and ella, you, polite, he and she, the ending is A. For we, it's amos. For you, familiar, plural, it's ice. This is the only one that carries an accent. And for ustedes, ellos, ellas, it's on. Is anybody sitting there wondering why these are in this order? Okay. All right. What does everything on this chart is not my design. This is a standard. This is how teachers teach this lesson. Okay. Here is an organization to this chart that's very logical. What does everything on the left have in common versus everything on the right? Look at the chart. All right, let's just look at the left. I, you, he, she. What do they all have in common? Look. They are all pronouns. That's true. That's true. They're singular. These all refer to individual people. And individual people. I'm one person. Tú is one person. Usted is one person. He is one person. She is one person. However, look on the right-hand side. We have we, which I forgot to put the feminine form in. Sorry, that was my bad. We have you all plural, and they. Well, they all have S's at the end of them, so they refer to more than one person. Okay? So that's part of the organization of this chart, which you are going to learn how to make. Singular on the left, plural on the right. Oh, wait, there's more. The top-down order is logical as well. What do yo, I, and nosotros, we, what do those two words have in common?
We'll have one.
That's true. They both have O in them. That's true.
Talking about you.
Exactly. Well, they're talking about me. They're talking about me. That's right. Both of them include me. So yo, I, refers to me, and nosotros, we, that also includes me. Do you know what the word for that is? When they use it in literature too. When the author writes the story from his or her own perspective, what's that called?
Third person.
First
First person. Okay. So yo and nosotros are both first person. So they're at the top. Do you know what person you is? When you're talking to someone? Take a guess. The first person's at the top. Guess who comes next?
Third person.
Second person. Good. And then he, she, and they. What are those? Third person. Okay. So this chart isn't, the way I have it set up here isn't quite perfect because usted and ustedes, they both mean you. So what person are they? What person is you? You just told me. What person is you?
Third. Or
I'm
second.
first.
Second.
You is second. I'm first. You're second. Everybody else is third. Everybody say that. I'm first.
Yeah.
You're second.
You're second.
Everybody else is third. Okay. So first, second, third. That's the order of this. First, second, third. But look, usted, which also means you, and ustedes, which also means you, is grouped with third person. Guess why?
Why?
Because that is the Spanish way of showing formality. You talk to someone as if they're someone else. It's like you're putting a screen between the two of you, a social screen between the two of you. You're very popular. So that's done intentionally. So you talk to someone as if they are someone else. Okay, that's their formality. Okay? Alrighty, so if you let yourself digest the order of the chart, that makes this a lot easier. In fact, I'm gonna go back to that. Let's make sure you know these endings. Okay, we're gonna memorize them in the right order. Everyone? After me. O, as, a.
O, as, a.
Now, a is gonna repeat itself because it refers to usted, él, and ella. So let's do it again. O, as, a.
O, as, a.
Amos,
Amos,
ais,
I,
an.
ano,
O, as, a.
O, as,
Amos, ais, an. Good, let's do it again. Close your eyes this time. O, as, a.
O, as, a.
Amos, ais, an.
Amos, as, ano.
Hey, can you do it without me saying it first? O,
No.
O, as, almost.
Just everybody try it on your own. Close your eyes and see if you can do it on your own. All right, let's do it again together. O, as, a.
O, as, a.
Amos, ais, an.
Almost, I,
All right. You're going to do practice today that's going to help you learn that. Okay? And trust me, that won't be the last time that we'll do that for repetition now. All right, so first of all, hablar is an example of an AR verb. Okay? Why do you think we call it an AR verb? It is an AR. That's right. In Spanish, there are only 3 possible endings for verbs. 3 and only 3. AR, ER, and IR. What I just taught you, those endings, those are only for AR verbs. You have to learn different endings for ER verbs and different endings for IR verbs. Okay, we'll get to those after vacation. For now, we're going to start with AR verbs. Why? It's the biggest category. Of all 3 categories, AR, ER, IR, most verbs are AR. Okay, and so many super common words are AR verbs. You know hablar. What other AR verbs do you know already?
La, 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 la.
What was I
It's the
Almost did something
season
to do.
to be jolly.
singing? Yes. What's singing in Spanish, Chloe? Cantar, AR verb. Give me another one.
By our
Gabriela. Bailar,
She's copying me.
dance. Another AR verb. Give me another one. Jocelyn. Nadar, to swim. Beautiful. Give me another one. Estudiar, to study. Beautiful. Jenna, give me another one. That's my air guitar.
I agree.
Well, guitarra is a noun. Tocar. There you go. To play the guitar. The to play part is the verb. Joaquin, good job.
Montar.
Montar, to ride. Montar. Sí, Gabriela. Dibujar, to draw. Beautiful. Okay. So those are, Jocelyn, you want another? Jugar, to play. Good. Jugar. Beautiful. Now, we're not going to focus on ER or IR verbs, but I want you to realize you've already been taught a few. Can you think of an ER verb? Correr. Correr is an ER verb. How about when you watch a movie? Or watch TV? Ver, to watch. That's an ER verb. All right, so you already know a couple ER verbs at least. How about an IR verb? Say it again. Esquiar is an AR verb. It ends in an AR. Escuchar is an AR verb. It ends in AR. TJ? Escribir, the verb to write. That's what I thought you were going to say. The verb to write. Escribir is an IR verb. Okay? So biggest category is AR verb, so we're going to start there. All right, so here's the process. Super easy process, guys. You take the infinitive. That's the starting point. You knock off the AR. And then you just tack on the endings based on who the subject is. Now, when you take that AR off of the infinitive, what you're left with is called the stem. Okay, the stem. It's kind of like the root word. Okay, so for hablar, it would be HABL. I just took off the AR. And then based on who's doing the action, you put the appropriate ending on. Oh, what are those endings again? Let's hear them. Everyone. O, as,
O, as, a.
amos, ais, an.
Amos, ais, an.
There you go. All right. Yay. Here they are. So I believe this is slide 14, if I'm remembering correctly. So if you need to have this slide up when you're doing your practice in a few minutes, those are your endings. Okay, here's an example of a conjugation of cantar. Okay, now heads up, heads up. ¿Qué quiere decir nosotros cantamos? Nosotros cantamos. Tell me what it means. Dylan? Yes! We call that learning, Dylan. We sing. We sing. Nosotros cantamos. How about ellos cantan? ¿Qué si ellos cantan? What would that mean in English? Yes, they sing. Beautiful. How about él canta? Chelsea.
What was the question?
Él canta. What does él canta mean in English?
He sings.
I just couldn't hear you.
He sings.
He sings. Beautiful. How about yo canto? Sarah Minnick?
I got 32 on there.
Who is yo? Yes. I sing. Beautiful. How about usted canta? Chloe? There's no such thing as it in Spanish. Usted. You know what usted means? You sing. Yeah, it's just a polite version. Like, oh, Mrs. Charpentier, you sing so beautifully. Usted canta. You sing. Yeah. Sí. Gonna wait till after the lesson? Okay. All right, so here's estudiar. Let's do a few more. What would yo estudio mean? Kara? Yes, good. How about tú estudias? Tú estudias. Eli? Just think to yourself, who is tú? Yes, and we're dealing with the verb study, right? So tú estudias. You, just piece it together. You study, that's right, you study. How about ella estudia? Ella estudia. Nathan, are you there?
Yeah.
All right, so what would ella estudia mean?
Sure.
All right, well, who is ella? What does that word ella mean? E-L-L-A.
Hey.
E-L-L-A. I'll give you a hint. El means he.
So,
No. Help him out. PJ, who's ella? She. So ella means she. So ella estudia would mean she does what?
you say,
Are you, can you see my screen?
yeah, I'm on the side of the key.
All right, so I'm on the slide that has the verb to study on it. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I'm on the same side.
All right, so this is the verb to study, not to sing.
Oh,
All right, so ella estudia, what would that mean?
he studies.
She studies. She studies. All right, let me do one more here. Ellos estudian. Ellos estudian. Aubrey, what would that mean? Ellos estudian. Aubrey, ¿estás ahí? Sarah Lynch, what would ellos estudian mean?
Did they study?
Correct. They study. All right, let me move on to the next slide. Hold on. There we go. So there's one more little nugget to this that I need you to digest. So we in English have 3 present tenses. The Spanish has 2. You don't have to worry about the second one until Spanish 2. Okay? But what I'm trying to tell you is when I say yo bailo means I dance, okay, it doesn't just mean that. It could also mean I do dance or I am dancing. And this is true for everything, like for all of the other ones. So let me back up to that previous slide, if it lets me. Doesn't make any sense. All right, suppose I had yo estudio. I'll just do it out loud this way. Yo estudio. You know that it means I study, but what else could it mean based on that slide that I just showed you?